After the long wait for the results of the 2023 presidential election results, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the winner of the 2023 presidential election. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, declared Tinubu the winner at exactly 4:30 a.m. today in Abuja.
The former Lagos State Governor polled a total vote of 8,794,726 to defeat his closest rival and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, who scored 6,984,520 votes, and Peter Obi of Labour Party, who polled 6,101,533 votes. The presidential candidate of New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, came a distant fourth with the total votes of 1,496,687 votes.
And on the show today, we're taking a look at the President-elect Ahmed Bola Tinubu's victory and the reactions from opposing parties, among other talking points on the presidential elections, with seasoned analysts on Nigeria Decides 2023.
Welcome back to Nigeria Decides 2023 here on Arise News. After a long wait at the National Collation Center in Abuja, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, has been declared the winner of the presidential election. Chairperson of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, announced the results in the wee hours of Wednesday. Professor Yakubu said Tinubu secured a total of 8,794,726 votes. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, had the second highest figure with 6,984,520 votes, while Peter Obi of the Labour Party was next with 6,101,533 votes. Professor Yakubu added that the issuance of the certificate of return to Tinubu will take place at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. President Muhammadu Buhari heartily congratulates the winner of the 2023 presidential election, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Reacting to the results just announced, President Buhari said, and I quote, I congratulate His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu on his victory. Elected by the people, he is the best person for the job. I shall now work with him and his team to ensure an orderly handover of power. The election was Africa's largest democratic exercise. In a region that has undergone backsliding and military coups in recent years, this election demonstrates democracy's continued relevance and capability to deliver for the people it serves. Within Nigeria, the results reveal democracy's ripening in our country. Never has the electoral map shifted so drastically in one cycle. In the presidential elections, states in all regions across the nation change color. Some amongst you may have noticed my home state amongst them. The winning candidate did not carry his own home state either. That happens during a competitive election. Votes and those that cast them cannot be taken for granted. Each must be earned. Competition is good for our democracy. There is no doubt the people's decision has been rendered in the results we look at today. The president continued, that is not to say the exercise was without fault. For instance, there were technical problems with electronic transmission of the results. Of course, there will be areas that need work to bring further transparency and credibility to the voting procedure. However, none of the issues registered represent a challenge to the freeness and fairness of the elections. End of quote. Well, there we have it this morning. Joining us to analyze hear this on Nigeria Decides 2023. The first post the announcement of the winner by the chairman of INEC is Mr. Emmanuel Efeni, our Rise news analyst. And of course, we have Dr. Sam Amadi joining us from our Abuja studios in the course of this morning's conversation. Mr. Efeni, good morning.
Good morning, Ayo, Myro Ese. Good morning, Dr. Bachi. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning.
Yes, it's
morning,
a
sir.
new day in Nigeria because we have a new president-elect, the man who will take over from President Muhammadu Buhari on May 29, 2023, when there will be change of guard. It's a historic day in Nigeria because after the presidential election on February 25, the nation had been waiting with bated breath for the man who emerged as the winner. And early this morning, the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, announced the winner, and is none other than Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one-time governor of Lagos State, a consumer politician who has earned his stripes along the line, and today is the president of Nigeria. We cannot but congratulate him, no matter all the reservations political parties have, of course, without prejudice to the reservations from other political parties who have options of pursuing their grievances using all the legal means available to do so. So once again, we congratulate ourselves as Nigerians on this occasion of the emergence of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we'll say that, well, it was a well-fought political battle, as it were. The election keenly contested. I think in recent memories, this must be the keenest of contests when it comes to presidential poll, with the difference between the winner and his closest rival, less than 1 million votes. Yes, Atiku Abubakar polled Bola Ahmed Tinubu polled 8,794,726 votes, while Atiku, his closest challenger, polled 6,984,520 votes. Peter Obi, a man who has brought a different coloration to the political geography of this state, of the country, polled 6,101,533 votes. And of course, Kwankwanso, just over 1 million, about 1,496,687 votes. That's Kwankwanso, the candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party. So it's a keenly contest. It's been a keen contest by every standard. But the president of the Federation, President Muhammadu Buhari, in congratulating the winner of a deed, acknowledged that yes, there were flaws in the election. In his view, not enough. The challenges faced during the polls, not enough to, of course, vitiate the sweetness of the victory. Of course, he is a member of the ruling party, and the ruling party has just won the election. Yes, there were flaws and there were complaints, but there are legal and constitutional means to pursue those complaints. And I hope, because yesterday, on the eve of this declaration, we saw some political parties, 3 of them, coming out to, of course, question the process because of what they consider as flaws. Of course, the international observers and local observers as well did point out that indeed there were flaws in the election, there were shortcomings, but here we are again. Today we have a president-elect, and I think we should congratulate ourselves as Nigerians for pulling this through.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, did win with over 1 million margin. The margin between
1.8 million, actually.
1.8 million. So the margin between just close to 2 million. The margin between the second and the third, however, is less than 1 million. So that was quite a tight race. Indeed, across the 3 frontliners, it was quite a tight race. Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso, as I'd mentioned earlier, did quite well in the north. In fact, the only state he won was Kano State, but didn't quite get a spread. to validate or legitimize his candidacy in terms of being a front runner of this presidential race. First of all, I would say congratulations to the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's been quite an emotive few days. Passionate, it's been dramatic, beyond it being colorful, as Adeso had said earlier on in the previous show, that this is perhaps the most colorful, and a number of people have alluded to that, the most colorful electoral map in Nigerian electoral history, at least post 1999, and I dare say post, ever since since elections started in 1923, perhaps the most interesting. Positives, negatives, we've had quite a conversation around that. And whilst the president-elect, during his speech earlier today, had acknowledged a number of his party faithfuls, progressive governors, as like you called them, family members, friends, and even threw a few jabs at his opponents, the president's speech is one that we must also critically look at in terms of his swift congratulations of his party's presidential candidate who's emerged winner, and his acknowledgement of some of the failings of INEC in this process. Now, the big question for a number of people, like you said, Mr. Efeni, is the litigations, retinue, if I could put it that way, that would follow this announcement. Already the parties had mentioned that they were going to pursue that route. And at this point, what we must say to party members and faithfuls is the importance of remaining calm and being peaceful. It has been said a number of times that due process should be followed, and if to seek redress, go through the formal channels, through the courts. At the end of the day, that's what makes democracy thrive, where you have your evidence and your facts, you can present it to a competent court of law and seek redress and get justice. So initially, with the results, INEC is the only body that's authorized to announce results. Therefore, whatever results have been going around, this is the authentic result according to INEC. And so we congratulate the president-elect. We only would find out what would happen in the next few hours and few days. The opposition parties haven't said anything yet, at least at this time. That's the PDP, the LP, and the NNPP. But I'm sure in the course of today's show, we'll be bringing you more updates as to this result.
All right. Dr. Bati?
Dr. Bati.
Oh, okay. Well, the battle has been fought and lost at the official level, with the chief returning officer in the presidential election, the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, announcing Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president-elect of Nigeria in the 2023 presidential election, with a total of 8.7 million votes. Yes, the point has been made that the gap between Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the closest runner-up is about 1.8 million votes, to be precise. Well, so what are the other indications? President Muhammadu Buhari has already issued a statement of congratulations, which I think is in order. And one of the points he's making is that, one, he is happy. We expect him to be happy. After all, he's a candidate of his party that has won. And he had said previously that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the best man for the job. He had promised Nigerians that he would deliver an electoral process that will be credible and fair. But there are questions, even with the president's affirmations in this regard. There are many people who still think that, well, the president himself did not live up to his promise. When, on the occasion of the presidential election on February 25, he brandished his voting paper, his ballot paper, that was in clear violation of the law. And I've seen, since the declaration of the outcome of the process, people say, look, President Buhari was talking to deep state, giving a signal as to where he would like to go. So that question still hangs in the air. Number two is a point that he made that the election was not without faults, where that has been the conclusion of all the observers, both the professional observers and citizens in society. So the question, therefore, is about the credibility of the process. Was INEC truly independent? Has it been a credible electoral process? Can it be considered free and fair? And that is a question that has been raised by the opposition political parties. The opposition political parties staged quite enormous drama before and after the declaration of the results. The People's Democratic Party, the Labour Party, the Action Democratic Congress, and then the African Action Alliance Congress, I think, AAC, also said they were withdrawing. They withdrew their party agents before the declaration of the results. So they raised questions about it. The only comical part of it was one party agent asking for pepper soup and jollof rice. I hope he succeeded in getting what he wanted. After the INEC chairman said, okay, give him water and also give him dinner. But that's on the comical side of it. But the truth of the matter is that the international community watching, the local opposition parties who were involved in the process have raised very cogent questions. However, the president himself admitted that and said, this process has not been without fault. But he urged all the aggrieved persons not to go to the streets, to process their grievances through the instrumentality of the rule of law, as is provided. And as the INEC chairman had pointed out in his engagement with the opposition party agents, when he said, if you have any grievances, just go to court, which is what is provided for in the Electoral Act, specifically Section 149 of the Electoral Act 2022. The president said, the people of Nigeria have spoken. Well, truly, there will be many people who will also question that. Have the people spoken? Because even before the announcement of the result, there were persons going online and double-checking what was being announced and saying that, look, you did not announce the actual figures that we got from our polling booth, which was the effect, of this open secret balloting in Section 50 of the Electoral Act 2022, which is that, results will be declared in the open at, polling units. So my concern, however, is that, the president has also said the people should respect, the political parties should respect the peace pledge. 2 different peace accords were signed by the political parties. The first in September, the second in February, just before the election. Now, will the political parties respect the peace accords? Because yesterday we were already seeing what looked like protests in certain parts of the country with people going to the to the streets and trying to protest and all of that. So we have said that these are interesting times in Nigeria. The times may even be more interesting. What is likely to happen? We're likely to see more by way of litigation. Nigerians had expected that with the introduction of technology provided for in the Electoral Act, that this will just be a straight process and that there will be no dispute. But clearly, the aggrieved political parties are likely to take their matter to the courts, as they've been advised. We just hope and we appeal, as the international observers have done, that there should be calm, there should be peace. Because at the end of the day, Nigeria is strategic, not just to West Africa, but also the entire continent. We'll take a short break now. When we return, the program will continue. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria Decides 2023 here on Arise News. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the winner of the 2023 presidential election. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, declared Tinubu the winner at exactly 4:30 a.m. today in Abuja. The former Lagos State governor polled a total vote of 8.794726 million to defeat his closest rival and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, who scored 6.984.520 million votes, and Peter Obi of Labour Party, who polled 6 million votes, 101,533 votes. The presidential candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, came a distant fourth with a total votes of 1,496,687 votes. Well, there you have it. You know, the result of the presidential election. And previously, you know, I was trying to do an interrogation of the statement made by President Muhammadu Buhari. And the big question, the last line in President Muhammadu Buhari's statement was that the people of Nigeria have spoken. And that's the emphasis there. But we know that this has been, yes, a keenly contested election, as Emmanuel Efeni pointed out. It has also, at the same time, been very competitive. But it will also probably, come across as the most controversial election in recent times. If you look at the turnout, which was one of the issues we looked at yesterday, 93.4 million registered voters. We were told that, about 84.2, collected PVCs. But if you add up the figures from what has been announced so far, this will be the lowest turnout in terms of actual votes cast since the return to democracy in 1999. After all, in 2003, we had presidential candidates scoring up to 20 million votes, winning with 20 million votes, runner-up winning up to, what's that proverbial figure again, 12 million or 14 million votes.
The 50 million mark.
But in this particular election, the figures have been quite small, which is an indication about the level of turnout. But, well, apart from the president's speech and all those details about people going to court and our observation that there's going to be very serious litigation, the winner has also spoken up. And of course, as expected, the winner says this is a shining moment for Nigeria and that INEC, deserves commendation for running a free and fair election. Well, he has thanked everybody for supporting his campaign, from the president, who openly endorsed him. Although I raised the question earlier when we started this program about how the president himself, as the leader of everyone, violated Section 122, subsection 4 of the Electoral Act by displaying his ballot paper. But who is going to take the president to court? He enjoys immunity under Section 308 of the Constitution. Going forward, we're likely to see a lot of litigation. We're likely to see a lot of arguments. Yesterday, lawyers in their WhatsApp platforms were arguing about the import of Section 134 of the Constitution, what it says about who wins, and all of that argument about, the Federal Capital Territory, whether the Federal Capital Territory, as defined in Section 134 2B of the Constitution, and the word "and" in that section is to be read conjunctively or disjunctively. So you are likely to have all that argument. But when what's his name, Sam Amadi joins us, I'm likely to confront him with that, and we can interrogate, what Section 132 says, what Section 318 says, what Section 2 subsection 2 says, what Section 299 of the Constitution says. So these are issues that may come up. But we can see that the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, who has been declared winner, has gone a step ahead. He has already gone to court to institute a case in Kano Federal High Court to check people, those opposition political parties, as they now are, who are saying that the, election should be cancelled. And of course, the INEC chairman made it very clear that there will be no cancellation. Whoever is aggrieved, INEC chairman says should go to court in line with section 149 of the Electoral 2022. So these times are likely to be more interesting in Nigeria. But as I argued yesterday on the back page of this day newspaper, this is the best of times. It is also the worst of times. And I was quoting Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, 1859.
A Tale of Two Cities, what a great book. But if you remember the era at which that book was written, Charles Dickens, it was indeed a tale of two cities. It was a country of haves and have-nots. And some other books in the spirit of literature this morning that goes along that narrative where Nigeria is today as a country is the book of one of my favorite British Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, and also author and writer that wrote the book Two Nations, or Sibyl, which was a very important story of the strife in Britain then among the haves, the rich, and the have-nots. Congratulations to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his president-elect. The city boy has finally done well in the big city. Give him all his flowers. He got in there in the nick of time. He said, Emilo kan. Ode kan looto. He's president-elect today. Give him all the flowers. Give him all the accolades. Congrats to him. But how did he win? He won an election that was very divided. That INEC broke its own laws, pure and simple. He won an election where INEC reneged on his own promise. And people started talking, but INEC wouldn't listen when it's been showed he broke his own laws. INEC said, I will hurriedly go ahead, but people pointed to INEC that he broke his own laws. There are sections 60 of the Electoral Act that deal with transmission of results. People now are making the argument, INEC guideline. Is INEC guideline a law? Let's not deceive ourselves. The guidelines were there, and they are laws to be used for the elections. If there were no guidelines, if people are asking, is guideline a law? Why can't people just come to the polling units and do anything they want if there are no guidelines on how they should vote? Because the argument now is very funny. And the law is the law and the guidelines. And section 160 of the Nigerian Constitution, with a proviso, says that INEC can make his own laws without needing approval from the president. It is there. So INEC went ahead to break its own guidelines by not transmitting results. It's as simple as that. And that is the context here. I keep hearing people talking about 25%. That's a red herring. The substantive issue here is that did INEC violate its own guidelines? When people argue all sorts, I ask them, please, for those that went to vote, if the guidelines do not matter, you just try thumbprinting your hands in such a way that you thumbprint one in one party and you use another hand to thumbprint another one in one party. The votes are invalid, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's the way it's a nullity. As long as you do not transfer, it's a nullity. Also, the capacity to be able to challenge another recount is there in section 71 of the Electoral Act. These things are expressly stated there. As long as you do not follow it, it is a nullity. But the court will be the one to decide that. But these are the laws of the land. I mean, Dr. Abbott, you were chief marker, examiner, lecturer par excellence for so many years. If I was in your literature class and you gave me an examination, Dr. Abati,
and you say answer 2 out of 4, and I answer 4, what would you do? Are you not going to cancel the 2 I answered and mark the only 2 that you stipulated I should answer? These arguments are crystal clear. But you know, when you call 13 lawyers in a room, you have 13 different opinions. But it is the Supreme Court, and it's incumbent on the Supreme Court to reinforce the trust of the people. For the 25%, oh, this reminds me of 1979. Fatai Williams, of blessed memory, clumsily worded, but semantically unambiguous. Those were the exact words used there. The law was clumsily worded, but semantically unambiguous. We all know the definition of "and." The 1979 Constitution that cascades down to the 1999 Constitution. In the 1979 Constitution, is stated expressly 1/4 over 2/4 over 2/3 in the 19 states of the Federation as it was then. There was no "and" FCT. Lagos was FCT. Wasn't the Federal Capital Territory. Wasn't the capital of the country. But if the Constitution in this regard says "and FCT," and FCT, Rufai, standalone entity, Dr. Abati, Mr. Efeni, and Ayo. I don't know too much, but these are the arguments out there. You can even take it as I no go school. Moving forward, President Muhammadu Buhari, his letter of congratulations reminded me pretty much of the letter or the words said by Umar Musa Yar'Adua after he won in 2007. He said, we can't say the elections have been absolved of faults. The beavers did not work. But this was what was stipulated in the law, that the beavers will work. It's also stated in the Electoral Act that a place where the beavers does not work is as good as elections not holding there. But there were places the beavers did not work, and the elections were counted. Just like Umar Musa Yar'Adua said that, I know the elections that brought me was fraught with irregularities. And what did he go further to do? He set up the Ways Commission. Apart from the congratulations and all of that. Once again, congratulations to the city boy. But in his own speech, yes, I ask, was the speech for his party members or for the Nigerian people? Because all I heard was strictly about his party members, congratulating all of them, going further to remind us how some party agents have not even been paid because of the Naira crunch. Then congratulated Baba Gidi Ogala, Dr. Abati, and said, thank you for the good work you did for taming the gorilla. I heard it. I'm sure some people will argue with me that I didn't hear that. Was that complimentary at the first speech to the international community? Was it about the people that voted for you or the sufferings of the millions of people out there? But anyway, in fairness to him, he reiterated the promises. He says he will do Nigeria well. And we, the media, will hold him accountable. We will ask the questions. I just hope we are not stifled when we start to ask the questions. I just hope we are allowed to do our jobs. But he also went further to call on the three other opponents and said, work with me. We want to build Nigeria. We have to build Nigeria. And congratulations to him, because whatever we might say now, pending any, legal case, is our president-elect. And he has become for all of us now. He has become the number one statesman. And the things we give statesmen are gifts of kudos where he's right and criticisms. Criticisms are the engine. It's the oil that oils the engine of any nation to success. So we congratulate him. But all those vitriol against other people were needless. The international community, everybody was watching that first attempt. He has started by going to the courts. So we might as well continue the legal battle, because the case was filed, like Dr. Abati said, in Kano yesterday, and the legal fireworks have opened. It is going to be a lot of long nights of litigation, and lawyers will be richer than anything else. I'm sure they are sharpening everything, getting ready. They have a right to earn their decent pay, please, don't get me wrong. But the big question will be, our national anthem says to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. The question on our table as Nigerians this morning, and kudos to you, hard-fighting Nigerians, that came out to believe in this country once again, despite all that has happened, because you are the real heroes. Whatever mandate is the mandate of you, the Nigerian people. But I leave you with this. Have we built a country where justice shall reign to be able to beget peace? If we have not built that country, I'd like to quote the words of Che Guevara. Hasta victoria me siempre. Until we build that country where peace and justice shall reign. Hasta victoria me siempre.
Well, the two main opposition parties, the PDP and Labour, are calling for the results of Saturday's election to be cancelled. The parties have held a joint news conference calling once again for the vote to be cancelled and describing it as a sham.
We are witnessing the fact that the next government is going to be built on outright illegality. What INEC has accelerated itself to doing is to put itself in a trance to promote illegality and thereafter call for the courts to resolve the illegality that they have worked on. Nowhere in the world where there is respect for rule of law do people easily and hurriedly tell others with impunity, go to court, go and seek redress. The courts are final.
All election results must be transmitted at the polling unit level. And that is the basis, is those results from the over 176,000 units that we can use through the process of collation. So if you have not transmitted those results, it means that you have actually not conducted the election under the very law that we all applauded. So the right thing to do is for the INEC chairman to go forth and cancel the elections.
Well, there we have it, the two vice presidential candidates of the opposition parties, PDP and Labour Party, Governor Okowa and Yusuf Baba Ahmed. Dati Ahmed. Mr. Feni, they had a joint press conference. A number of things were said about this. The fact that these two parties came together for a joint purpose, a joint mission, and some of the things they had pointed out in their submissions. Your take on this?
Yes. Yesterday, it was clear that the two opposition parties, as we see the closest rival, going by the results declared so far, they had reservations, especially concerning the credibility of the election, and that was why they came out yesterday. Don't forget that earlier, their representative at the Collation Center had pulled out, having complained, calling for the INEC chair to look at those issues they have raised, especially as it has to do with the transmission of results, because the clamor then as well voiced out by Dino Melaye, who was representing the PDP at the Coalition Center, was that please give instruction for the results to be uploaded. To be uploaded as you are declaring them. But of course, that never happened. And that in itself has brought a lot of controversy into this election, despite the fact that a winner has been declared, because INEC made it clear that election results will be transmitted from the polling units. That never happened. Whatever was the problem, it was a clear breach of its own guidelines, promises made and re-emphasized in the months and days ahead of the election. So the political parties that are now protesting, in the eyes of public opinion, they have a case. How they will pursue this grievance, of course, they will go to the court because a result has been declared, and we'll urge them to toe the legal and constitutional path to protest their grievances and no other way. Because with this declaration, yes, something has been accomplished, and I can imagine that will have been running in the minds of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu to land safely so that we don't have a situation of inconclusive election or stopping the declaration of results halfway, which, as we noticed, as of course in the case of 1983, became a point of interference by the ruling party, the ruling government then, the military government, and of course the consequences that followed. So that must have been running in the minds of the electoral umpire. But the credibility of the election is still a question to be answered. What the courts, the tribunal, will decide when these parties are able to collate and put their case before the court is left to be seen. Coincidentally, unlike in 2019, when the PDP was relying on what was in a server, and it turned out because the server then, because some of us still believe there was a server somewhere, because you cannot have that data without a backup end where those data were saved. But the law did not recognize a server then. But this time around, going by the Electoral Act 2022, these technological devices, beavers, server, are all recognized part of the electoral process. So what is in the server will be an issue. The parties, I hope they know how to do their case properly, because if you say the results declared at the polling units is at variance with what has been declared by INEC, then you have to show proof. And because they have representatives at this location, we hope they have their case in place. But the issue, there are other legal issues that will crop up. Ruben, you refer to that section 134. If I listen attentively to Sam Amadi yesterday night, and I hope he will be very much around to make his case. Because the case he's making is that if you don't secure that 25% in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, then you have not met the constitutional threshold for becoming, for being announced as the winner of the presidential election. But like Rufai referenced, when you have 13 lawyers in the room, you may just have 13 opinions. But when the case is between two people, I'm sure those 13 lawyers will divide themselves into various numbers and stay on one side of the divide. We'll see that in the legal fireworks that will follow this case. Well, the speech of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu Well, I think, Ruben, you have a way of admonishing speechwriters, because in this Tinubu moment for the country, we're expecting to hear a very profound speech. Because you are the president when you are sworn in, of those who voted for you and those who did not vote for you. It's not enough to just give all the accolades to your supporters here and there. Every Nigerian that true power to cast their vote deserve the gratitude of the president-elect. It doesn't matter who they voted for, because everybody contributed. Looking at the figures, it's been dubbed the lowest vote in the presidential election in recent times. Some will say, really? Because on that day, we saw massive turnout. Many people could not cast their votes. With the introduction of technology, and with the awareness that this technology will play a role, even if INEC has not kept to this faithfully, somewhere along the line, this technology will be called to be part of the decision at the courts. It depends on how each party is able to prove his case. But we must also take note that perhaps what is closest to real votes will come out in this election, compared to previous years when it was very easy to write to write figures and push that forward.
Emmanuel,
yes.
I would like to respond to some of the issues
Yes.
you raised, particularly about Tinubu's speech and also the objection by the opposition political parties and your reference to parts of the Constitution.
Yes.
This is interesting about this election. Everybody now has become a lawyer. Everybody is carrying one legal document.
We all have a copy of the electoral act.
I know.
It's available online, Ruben. It's not available to lawyers like you.
Even when half of the time the references are wrong, but it's all right.